Okay, so I'm just going to get into creating a new project. This is our project that we were actually using in class the other day. So again, I'm going to pause this video as we go through this, but just want to make sure we are clicking the right thing. We want to get this basic Java FX archetype with the FXML. Oh, and then I want to make my name here. I'm just going to I'll make a registrar. Okay, so I have this created, the registrar thing. I have my source packages. I want to look into here, and these are the main ones. And every time I make an FXML, it's going to be kind of the same setup here. And so these are the main files that I want to think about. Okay, so I think the first thing to start with is I'm going to choose primary and secondary for now. Let's see. And so I'll double click this to get this open in Scene Builder. All right, there we go. So yeah, I mean, it's just got that default thing. So obviously I want to kind of mess up. Actually, let me show you something real quick first. So what I might want to do is I just want to like trash this whole thing. I can use the primary, like just the fact that it's there, but otherwise I'm just going to delete this FXML thing, and we'll just delete that. Now, there's going to be some problems here because actually, if I can undo this. If I undo this, it's actually really, really important, and I might make it even a separate, quick little video to explain this. But what this is doing is we've already built this, and remember we have to connect our FXML to the controller, and those need to, because the controller is going to handle the actions that are kind of being identified maybe in the FXML thing. So when I do this automatically, when we create this FXML project in NetBeans, it's going to make these connections already. However, if I go through and I delete this VBox thing, and it's kind of resetting everything, what you might notice here is that the controller class also disappears. So I've disconnected the primary, the two different parts, the FXML and the actual controller part. So I will need to reconnect those. But also, if I had a different class, I could also kind of select a different one in here. If I wanted to make a third one, which we'll have to do later, I could make a third one and connect it in here in its place. And so I'll get to that maybe later on, but just to kind of be aware. Anyways, okay, so I'm going to start with, I think the best one for us to use here is just a pane. Pane is like difficult, but not in this case. Oh, that's bad. Okay, so let's see what we're going to need to do here. Yeah, what I like about a pane is we can just like freely place things on here. So this probably is even better than a grid for us. It might not be as pretty and as aligned as a grid, but yeah, but we do get this. So I was just wondering if I could actually put in a title for a window, but I guess not. We need to do that. That would be happening in the actual main part. So we can't mess with that here. But what I do need to do here is go into let me just check out my sketchbook and make sure that I know kind of what I want to have. Okay, so I just want to have like a label. I need to have an add button and a view button. So let me pop back over here. I'll pause this. Well, I can do this real fast. We'll do controls, and I'm just going to do like a label. We'll drag a label in here, and it does do some alignment stuff, which is kind of nice. I don't think I want to spend a ton of time just for the sake of this video, but welcome to the registrar. Welcome to the registrar. Let's see, is that going to work? Yeah, okay, so it automatically kind of makes it bigger, and I might kind of pause it and do some resizing of that. I can change this shape in here, or change the size over here. And maybe just be helpful to show some of this stuff working. Change it to be whatever we want. And so this just makes our life so much easier as far as setting up our GUI and just making it look nice. So maybe in the future I won't show those little parts. I'll just do those off camera. But maybe it's important to kind of show those to begin with here. So if I want to go back to my diagram, all right, so I'm going to have that add and view button on here. Yeah, so I guess I don't really need, I was thinking about putting other labels in there, but I guess I really just need to have two buttons. Now these buttons are going to be, so, I don't know if again, aesthetics really aren't that important. They might be nice for us, but they're not going to be important for the IA that much. So I'm not going to worry too much about making this really pretty. But I did say I wanted to register students, and then I want to be able to view students. So really easy to just go through and set these things up. Now let's see, what I do need to have in here is I need to have some names for these buttons, because if I click them or if I want to handle some action stuff, FXL makes it a lot easier. but it's still nice to have these kind of identified within the code if we want to use them in some way that might be useful. So for sure, what we need to have an on action, because otherwise the buttons will be useless. So I'm going to make a method. I'm going to say like basically, hey, I'm going to use a method later called register. I don't say register student. Okay, so that means that this is basically me telling the computer, hey, go look for that register method in the primary controller. If it's not there, so I'm going to have to kind of create that too, if I want to actually use it. Also, I think this will be less important for this, because I'm not sure if I'll actually access the button directly, but I do want to have a label for this. I'll just call it register button. Really nice to have that kind of very clear naming convention, so I know what it is later. And let's say view button. We're gonna make this on action. We'll say view students. Okay. So easy peasy. We save this, and now if I go back into my NetBeans, and I could actually, if I want to see this in actual code, I need to open up and edit it. I can see that everything's been laid out. It has a register button in here, right? We have our FX ID as the register button. View button has all this layout stuff that I don't have to worry about. And now I have these on action methods of register students and view students. So let's see. Yeah, so I think the goal for this video will just be to show the two different, creating the GUIs, and then we'll do some of the coding behind it. We'll have to make a student class and then do some coding behind it. So let me just set up this secondary one. Open this up. And all right, there we go. And again, I think I could use a lot of different ways of organizing this. I thought about using a grid would be the easiest, but I really think just using the pane is going to be the fastest. So we'll just delete this. And now, as you recall, so we'll add in just pane. I think that's just so much easier than doing anything else. You don't have to worry about like organizing and spacing, and sometimes even like the H box and stuff. It just kind of, it gets to be a pain to organize. Let's just kind of freely place it on here. I think the problem, let's see, can I open up this other one? Let's see, one problem of the pane is that if I go preview and window, yeah, it's going to be kind of dumb, right? It's not going to respace itself because it's just kind of set to be one size. So I have to decide for yourself if it's worth it to do something like maybe a grid or like a different type of layout could work. Like maybe a V-box would be better here, because a V-box will reorient itself as we move the pane around. So there's definitely some pros and cons there. Yeah, and I could see either way being good. Let me do this I'll do this as a V-box, and then I'll show you how you can add some space in there to make it still look kind of nice. Because yeah, this maybe is not the best, but it does work. Okay, so we're back in the secondary one. I need to set my controller to be secondary. Some of the stuff, I guess you can just kind of skip through and use your judgment on what's valuable and not valuable to you here. I'm going to talk a little bit here about, I'm going to take away this pane, and I'm going to make a V-box. But again, if you need to skip forward, or I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of organizing this, you can maybe skip a little bit forward in the video if you want to get past this part. But let's see. So I have my V-box here. There's a couple different techniques that I can use. So after thinking about it for a bit, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it kind of ugly to begin with, and then maybe I'll come back and do like an extra version. We're going to come back through and like add some spacing in here. So maybe you can kind of flip over to that one. That way we can just focus on getting our program to work. And then if we can do the other kind of make it pretty stuff later, that's great, but not really our biggest concern for right now. So let me just kind of keep this in mind about what I want. I'm going to have register student ID. I'll have to think if I want any other data in there. So first thing we want to do is we'll have our label up top. And let's see, and we want to do this orientation. And so I need to go through here so I need to go through here and select my V-box. I don't have this thing kind of orient everything in the middle. So I just go to alignment and I'll do top center. And then I could increase the size of this label. I want to do this like register students. It'd be nice if this was actually like the name of the window, and I think we could make that happen. But I think this is also just fine for us. Okay, so what I want to do, so my scene builder decided to crash there, I think just because this computer is kind of overworked. So anyways, yeah, I have this big register students thing in here, and maybe I'll try and get some of these kind of brief style things in here as well where I can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a bunch of H boxes, because I want to have like my V boxes orienting everything kind of one on top of the other. I can throw an H box in here as kind of like a sub layout, and I'm going to do at least 2 or 3, and yeah, we'll just have to see kind of about this. I mean, my thought is that yeah, inside this layout, let's go through and add in our labels. Add in a label for both. Let's go in here. We need to have a label. We need to have a label down here. One thing I can do, let's see, and so that's going to be kind of centered. I'm going to orient these things. I can do probably like a gap. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. You know, pretty wise. We'll see how this looks visually. Let's drop that in here as the next element. Next element. Let's see. Maybe I want to do. I can. And so yeah, I mean, this is where we can get into some like design choices of like maybe we want to do this in the alignment of like top center, or maybe just center, just center, and then we do center here. And then yeah, I mean, so this would be my like what did we say it was enter student name. Where are we at here? Where was our visual? We need to do our name, we need to do our ID, and we'll kind of choose that as our first two things. Name. Oh, and we don't want to do a button in here, right? We want to do. Let's get rid of these guys. We want to have text fields in here. So let's get rid of these buttons, and we'll just add in a text field. Super easy though. Text field. Again, there's all sorts of fancy stuff in here. I mean, I see like the autocomplete text field. I haven't worked with that. I mean, if you want to take a look, try and get it to work. Anyways, just advanced stuff you might be able to look into. One thing I can do in here is if I want these two kind of, the sizing isn't great. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely ways I could put like grids in here or just doing maybe a float plane. I don't know. I really want to try to not get focused on the visuals. But one thing I could do just to get these kind of to maybe resize themselves. If I can go into modify, let's see. Oh, I want to use computed sizes. And that's just going to figure out like how much space do you need, and then it's going to compute the amount of size it should give you. So we can do that for these two to get computed sizes. And let's see some other things I might want to do in here. I won't get, again, I'm going to try not to get too heavy into the visuals, but I might want to have some kind of spacers in here. So if I just want to like kind of real briefly run and just get some, maybe spaces out a little bit, like the name and the box are right next to each other. And I can do a couple things in here. Padding is going to provide the space between one layout and the next. So these two HBox things are really close to each other. So I could change this padding to be like 5, 5, 5. And so these are like the number of pixels in between them. And now I have this kind of space between the two of 5. I can also add spacing within the elements, and I can make this 5 as well. And now there's at least a little bit of kind of breathing room. And I could apply the same thing down here. It seems like there's probably a way we could make this kind of default to this. But for us, I think it's okay. All right, that's good enough for now. We have our name and our D. It doesn't look great, but I'm going to try not to worry about it. Let's see, one other thing I could do in here, if I want to add in some, last thing I'll do as far as space goes, I know I'm going back on what I said. We can add regions. Regions will be like blocks, just empty blocks that we can put in here. That will, maybe we want to put this in here. It's going to be just a big empty space that we can kind of change the size of, and so we can use this to kind of put gaps between our stuff. And there's different ways that we can kind of set whether like how much it's going to grow, if it's going to grow always. So that means like if we go into our preview, as we grow our window, it's going to kind of increase size or decrease size. We can mess with that. Last thing, but okay, so that's one thing we could do. Last thing I want to do is I want to put my buttons on the right side, and I am well aware that I'm using too much time for this. How much time? Okay. So let's do bottom right. Hopefully you can find some use out of this and hopefully pop through as where you see fit. So let's add this bottoms down. Add them at the buttons on the bottom of this thing. I think that I could do, maybe I want to put like a, kind of add in an H box. Maybe really what I want to do for this last one. Let me get rid of this one. And I'm going to put in like a V box. V box. You can see this region has grown to take up the entire space, which is kind of, I don't know, good and bad. You can mess around with that as you see fit. But let's go to our V box. And in here, I want to throw in these two buttons. So I've added a V box down here as part of our kind of overall layout. So now I want to put this as a element. Let's see, I think I'm. So I'm going to go back through and add this V box again. Drag this down here and make sure I'm really conscious about which one it's kind of inheriting to, or which hierarchy it's in. Right now it's in the HBox hierarchy. I really want it to be in the overall VBox hierarchy, to be this kind of piece on the bottom. And then inside of here, I want to put a few buttons. So let me grab this button and let's put this, make sure it goes with in the VBox. There we go. Right, okay, good. Now our hierarchy's looking good. We can do 2 of these. Oh, we don't put that in there. We want to drag this again. Inside, nope, I want a button and a button. Oh my goodness. We can do 2 buttons here though. And let's see, again, I could do this to kind of like automatically, let's get my VBox and I want to have it use computed sizes. So kind of depending on the size. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, we could work around, maybe put a region underneath too to kind of balance these things out. Again, I'm trying to stop myself from focusing on making it look nice though. So we're going to put on the bottom and we're going to go right. So I just kind of like to have the buttons on the bottom here. I'm going to register, maybe add student. And then I want to do like return to menu. And obviously in here, we could do a lot of the things that we did in here, adding some gapping, adding some spacing. But again, I'm trying to, as much as I can, be focused on limiting my time here. So that so far doesn't look too great, but I think we could definitely do better. But hopefully there's enough elements in there that you could kind of work this out on your own. Oh, one last thing that I realized I need to do on here. I did add these buttons. I do need to add some, I want to add some, let's see, I need to label these things. So, we could do some prompt text, enter name. And then we want to make sure we have the code in here. We want to have the text field code. Let's see, FXID, let's see, name, text, action. So on action here, what I want to do is if I hit enter while I'm in the space, let's see. I could have it like if you hit enter while you're in there, it's going to perform the same action as adding a student. So in both cases, if you hit enter while you're in the text field, or if you hit the OK button, it's going to try and create a whole student and then add that to an array list, or add it to however we're going to store that data. So let me do, let's just make an action called add student, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to run the same method for both of these actions. And the FXID here is add button. Let me go through here and add the FXID here, add ID, and I think I'm just going to do it for all of them. Like, we're going to make a student. If you hit enter anywhere in here, we're going to use this kind of add student method. Oops, what did I do there? Let's just say add student. I'm just going to copy that. And then also, we want to have a name on this one. It might not be important to have a name on here. Oh, enter ID number. So we have some prompt text in there. And then we'll do, I think I have the on action for this. It's got an FXID called add ID. And then for return to menu, I think it's just good practice to have a return button. I have labels on all these things. And then on action, we want to, let's just return to menu. Okay, and with that, I think that should kind of summarize how we could build this thing.